you familiar with DJ Academics?
Yes.
So he had he's interesting. I watch because I like to watch different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so he said when he started doing his YouTube videos, originally he would do these long introductions about me and like, oh, you know, the DJ Academics is the top. And then he realized because it's YouTube and a lot of his audience was very young, if you weren't getting to the point in like 15 seconds, you're losing them. So what he would do is he would just do like speed to the like, oh, this is DJ Academics, and then get into whatever topic was.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about Chicago, and then with he has a podcast now. He does the same thing where they'll just start talking. And then
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I think it's effective,
right?
Because when I watch LeBron's thing, and it just goes right into it.
Right.
It's like the intro, and then boom, the conversation, and every time it lands on the person that's speaking, you see the overlay with a title and description.
Absolutely.
It makes such of a flow because you're right. It grabs the person's attention right away. And so I thought about that, and I was like, man, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a psychological. Yeah, we are. Our attention, everyone's attention is just shot. Right? Everyone. So I think, and it just because it's like, and you already know what you're watching. Like you clicked into it. You know,
right.
You're watching the shot. You know you're watching LeBron. No one's gonna see LeBron on TV and be like, now, who's this guy right here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you know what it is. So you clicked onto it for a reason. So yeah, I think that
But my question is, can you duplicate that without having LeBron status?
I think you could, because once again, people are clicking into it. Meaning, like everything now, if it's being hosted on a internet platform,
right,
it's gonna say the name of your podcast, even if you know what I'm saying, even if it's on YouTube or whatever, unless somebody maybe shares a random clip on like Twitter or IG. But like for the most part, if you're hosting on your platform, or then people know what they're watching, and they can go and click. And if they want to know more, they can like either click subscribe or see or whatever it is, and then learn more about whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So I think it could be an effective tool. Because that's what I noticed too. Like I noticed for me, and I do this with a lot of stuff. It'll be even books. If I'm reading a book and I feel like the first chapters is fluff, and somebody just tell me about like, I'm like, especially if the subject matter. If I'm reading a financial book or a business book, I'm here to get. I don't care how you grew up. Like, I don't care that you're hey, my father used to read to me, and I want to know the jewels. Like, so I started doing. I skip chapters there.
Oh, I do that.
I'll just literally. I'm like, what? I'll look through the table of contents, and I'm like, okay, I want to know about this. I don't care about the other shit. Right. Like, I'm going straight here. Yeah.
I like that because I do it, but here's the thing: I do it after I read the book. Okay. After I read, I'll skip the beginning chapters. I like the introductions and the dedications and things like that. I skip that, and I start reading. Now, if the book becomes interesting, and I'm getting a lot of information, a lot of jewels, then I go back and read.
Same. But I gotta know.
Right. I gotta know. Then I go back to find out more about the author and their background and things like that.
I remember I told somebody, I told this girl, like it was maybe like a while back, maybe a year or two ago. She was like, she's like, I would love to read more, but I can't. This one book I'm trying to finish, it's taking me like almost 6 months. And I told her, I'm like, you just stop reading it, right? And go to another book. And she was like, what? Like, I blew her mind. She's like, you can do that? I was like, yeah, you can. I was like, yo, some books just suck. Like, it's just somebody, you gotta think about it. Like, it's just somebody that wrote it. Like, it's just a person.
Right.
But because of just how we're ingrained, we just have this, we put books on a pedestal. If it's in the book, it must mean it's the absolute truth. Right. Some books are just bullshit. Or they're just not good.
Yeah, or they're not direct to the point.
Right, exactly.
Right? Yeah. They take so long to get to the actual point. Yeah. And the best books, to my opinion, is the ones that are so simple to read.
Absolutely.
The easy read ones, it's like, it's not too complicated with the words. Yep. Right? It's straight to the point and direct. Absolutely. All of a sudden, it's like, it grabs you right away. The ones that's complex, and I can't understand where the complexity is coming from. Right. But at the same token, it's like, I'm a reader, and I'm trying to digest it. Not everybody's going to digest the information the same way.
Absolutely.
So if I could get something that's an easy read, but still gets down to the point,
absolutely,
I think that those are the books I enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, unless I'm reading about something specific, like technical, like if I'm reading a scientific book or academic scholarly, you can expect it to have like a lot of jargon and be very dense. But yeah, if it's something a concept that's for the general readership, keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah. So let's begin. Welcome back to It Starts Now, the Happy Hour Finance and Business. My name is Stan Lane, and we got Julius here. And Julius has such an extensive background. When I say extensive, I mean like he's into finance, he's into education, and the list goes on. So we're going to dive right in very quickly because there's a lot of information that I want to tap in with you about. So please welcome Julius to the show on the platform. And Julius, do a quick introduction so that way we can get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Stan. I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely.
I've literally been seeing you for a couple of years now because, you know, we part of this in the room right now, the Gentleman's Factory. So I've seen you with different members, talking to them, interviewing. And I'm like, man, why don't I get that? Do something with me. I can't get the call to get on. I'm not cool enough.
It's wrong. See, here's the thing, and I shared this. I think I shared this with you. Is the fact that we go through. We have associations, right? Mm-hmm. And we probably met a few times, but I remember specifically meeting you one particular time, mm-hmm. right? And I'm pretty sure we met through the membership and things like that. But a lot of times you don't get the opportunity to really engage because it's like functions.
Absolutely.
Know? And then so when somebody refers someone, it becomes a lot easier. They're like, oh, did you know such and such is doing this? And mm-hmm. like, really?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened with me because somebody referred you as a good communicator.
Mm.
And then when I started to do my research, I was like, wow, Julius has so much going on, has a wealth of experience. And through finance, through everything, but you could touch on that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I'm joking. I'm glad I'm here. Timing is everything. It's right time. So yeah. So like as you said, I have a background. So for me, and we talk about communication, right? Like I was telling you earlier, I think one of the first places where I got a master's in communication. Was when I were in college. I was working for Time Warner Cable. I was a bill collector. So like at 6 o'clock, I was one of those people, annoying people calling your phone, like, yo, you past due on your bill. We about to cut your stuff off, whatever the case may be. And from that experience, I had so many people say the most egregious things to me. Like, you know what I mean? They called me everything but a child of God. But we still had a mission because we were incentivized to get the more people we got to pay their bills, the more money we would make, right? Because we get bonus structure. That's how they built it out to get the thing. So if you wanted your bread at the end of the month, you wanted your bonus, you had to make sure that you get people to pay your bills. So I had to figure out how to maintain professionalism, maintain my composure.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're human too, especially at that time. I'm 19, 20 years old. You're not at your peak emotional maturity.
Right.
But I still had to figure out ways not to react or because then you get fired. Like people would get fired if they curse back. Like that was just like a no policy. So I think that was my first introduction into like learning how to be an effective communicator. And from there, I was always able to. I think I learned a lot of persuasion tactics, and then I think it was a combination of that, and then how I was raised too. My mother was very, very patient, very calm woman, and she always instilled that in me. Like just kind of, she didn't say it explicitly, but kind of think before I reacted. And mm-hmm. that once again, you're not always gonna do that. You're a human being at the end of the day. But that helped, and I think that those skills allowed me to then get jobs. Like so, I remember I was in college, went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So all my friends at the time. When they were graduating, before they graduated, they were all trying to get into the NYPD. The force. Right. That was like the natural transition. Mm-hmm. And I took the NYPD exam, passed it, whatever. And they sent me the letter to start the whole process of getting to like the.
Oh, so you was a beat guy?
No, I wasn't. No, never. Yeah. But that That was the natural. That was just what was happening. The path, because I was going to the school, and I thought about it. And just to be honest, like I was really, young. I had a very, very big interest in like just I guess African American, not African American. I say Afro. I'm trying to maybe not Pan Africanism, but Black history, Afrocentric history, and my views at the time. They've evolved since, but I was like, I don't know if I could be a police officer.
Right.
And so I just didn't go through with it. I still need a job after, because after college, like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
So I remember going to the career fair for John Jay, and I ran, and then I was just looking through the, talking to the different folks in there, and I remember seeing JP Morgan Chase. And at the time, I didn't know anything about bank. I'm thinking like, yo, why is the bank tellers at this criminal justice school?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember walking up to the dude there, whatever, talking to him. I disarmed him, like, hey, what's up? How you doing, man? My name is Julius, blah, 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 blah. He's like, I was like, oh, what y'all doing here? What do y'all do? And he was like, oh, we work for, we're JP Morgan Chase. We're here from the due diligence compliance team. I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't know what it was. So I'm like, all right, how do I be down? And then he took my information, or I took his, whatever the case is, followed up. And long story short, I ended up working at JP Morgan Chase. And one of the biggest things from that was it was a culture shock, because mind you, right before that, I'm working at Time on the Cable. Even though we had to be professional on the phone, in them call centers, it was not professional at all in terms of, we young kids. Not everyone's young, but a lot of us were young,
mm-hmm.
either in school. We from the neighborhood, from the community. So we in there. We have to be sound professional on the phone, but I'm in there with my Timbs on, my pants sagging. I'm in hoodies, whatever. And we take it smoke breaks at the all that type of stuff. So that was the environment, right?
Right.
And literally that was my job, and I'm still living in Queens, in my neighborhood, and literally I had to now jump into this world where these kids, exactly, and kids is wearing salmon shorts. All these kids went to like Boston College or this, that, and I'm like, and it was a culture shock. I'm meeting. I remember this dude I work with, cool dude, black dude though. He played lacrosse. I kind of knew what lacrosse was, but I'm like, yo, he's like, he played it in college. I'm like, yo, where am I? So it was a huge transition, but that was my way of breaking into the financial world. And then from there, I worked at HSBC, the private bank for a little bit. I ended up working at Standard Chartered Bank. It's a European bank, but they're global, right? So we had gained like a huge global perspective on how money moves and money transacts on a global level, on a global scale. So but that's some of my experience in terms of the finance world, and then we can talk more. Just my job, but that was just a long-winded way of kind of saying, like, try to kill multiple birds with one stone.
Yeah, but now, which we appreciate, because now it gave us context to the things that I'm going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now you're in the educational field,
mm-hmm.
right? And how did you make? You came from finance.
Mm-hmm.
What made the leap into education? Why not start your entrepreneurship journey earlier? Because now you're a part owner of Uplift Community.
Absolutely.
And then you got other things going on.
Absolutely.
But why did you go into the educational field versus going straight into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, first thing, I was raised by my mom and my aunt, and they're both educators. They both Department of Education, educators, teachers, and stuff like that. So I grew up in a household where education was just there. Like my house is like a library, because there was always books, always things there. So it was always, and I was always good at school. Like I was so good at school that I got bad at school, because the things was so easy for me. I remember being I got bored. So I was so good, like I would literally, if it wasn't anything that interested me or like really kind of piqued my interest, I just didn't care. But
so you needed that stimulation.
There you go. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but I was just like, all right. So with that being said, once I started working, I was doing my master's. Like I did my master's right after like right after college, because that was another thing that I wanted to. I was like, I got to figure out, what I want to do. There still wasn't really I wasn't passionate about the whole law enforcement experience, but I also wanted to add more to what I could do. So I decided to jump into my master's program. It's a 2-year program, but it took me 8 years to actually graduate, 7 to 8 years. And I think I started in 2012. I didn't get my master's until, so actually 2018, so 6 years. But it was really because I was taking a lot of time off, or whatever, dropping classes, whatever I was doing, I was switching it up. I was just like, I'll come, like leave for a couple semesters, come back, whatever. And I was like, all right, you know what? I've been dragging this thing out for way too long. If I come back and really finish this up, what can I do with this degree that I'm not really doing now with the master's degree? Because at the time I already was working in the banking field and all that. I was doing all right, okay. So I was like, all right, but what can I do? And I was like, all right, well, I could teach. I could teach at the college because I know with the master's degree you could teach undergrad. So that gave me my motivation. So when I went back to school, I went back there with a purpose. Like I was literally not only going in to pass my classes, but I was asking the professors, like, yo, how'd you get into what you were doing? I was being very intentional. I was having coffee with different educators. I remember this one dude, Michael Pardis. He's a teacher down at BMCC, brilliant dude. He's in the politics from the Bronx and all that. I grabbed coffee with him one day, and he told me, he was like, I was picking his brain. I was like, yo, how'd you get into this? And he was like, yo, I know why you want to do this. I know why you want to do the teaching thing. And he said because as he said, I think he said there's 3 types of capital. There's social capital and there's capital. I forgot the third one, but he's like, the teaching gives you social capital. And as a Black man, you need as much social capital as you.
What is social capital?
Social capital is it's almost like it's credibility. It's so, for example, if I'm saying I'm at the time I think I was like in my late 20s. If I say I'm a college professor, people just look at you different. They hold you in a different
like status.
It's a status symbol thing, but like. It's status symbol without saying status symbol. It's a way to gain, like anybody that goes to like because you can go to Harvard and study sociology. Like Columbia has a great social worker program, but doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be making a ton of money because of what you could, but you still can go. You can still walk around with that Columbia or Harvard sweatshirt or hat, and that gives you that social capital. There might be somebody that went to Baruch that's making way more money than you, but if they walk around with that Baruch shirt in certain rooms, it's definitely not gonna hit the same as that wearing that Columbia shirt. You know what I mean? So that has the
school and the
right. So the Baruch dude may be having like capital. He could be making $400,000 a year easily because he's working in for the Big 4 accounting firm. But then there's somebody that went to Columbia and got their MSW there, and they're making $70,000 a year. But that person from Columbia may be able to walk into different rooms than that Baruch person,
and that's the capital advantage.
Right, exactly. So, and you still want both. You definitely don't want to be. You still want. You still want.
One enables you to increase in not just status, but increase in network and increase in capital.
Absolutely.
Where one is just capital based.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So once, and then he broke it down, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So long story short, I took that and ran with it. Once I got my master's degree, I was able to get a job teaching at BMCC, actually teaching constitutional law. So, and once I did that, I got the taste of learning. Because first off, with teaching, I hope I'm not like speaking out of school. But a lot of these schools, from what I see, they just throw you out there. Like they just like, hey, here's the topics that you have to cover, figure it out. And you have to design your whole curriculum. So I've never taught an official class before. I had to figure it out. And, so I had to literally design the curriculum in a very short amount of time. I didn't say it was easy, but I was able to figure it out. And then once I did that, I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. And then, so then it's all around the same time with Chumbo and I. That's when we met at the Gentleman's Factory, and because we all shout out to Jeff Lindor. He did a class on how to do business with the government or something like that, and he was like, how we started doing that was doing these educational programs when he had his other company, Groom Success. So we were all, a bunch of us took the class, whatever. Chumbo and I, and then a couple other guys, we decided to just like, put our heads together, figure it out. The other guys dropped off for whatever reason, and Chumbo and I, we stayed. Kind of just stayed with it. And then that's how Uplift Communities started just to move forward. And we haven't looked back since. And then to answer your other question, because I'm going, where you asked about the other entrepreneurship, like just jumping into just straight entrepreneurship. I've always had like ideas of different things I try to do. My thing was I failed at a lot, but each time I would try, like sometimes I would just have an idea, just think it through and then not go anywhere. Sometimes I'll try and then I'll go a step further, start doing like little market research. And then somebody would tell me no, and I'm all right, give it up on it. And then I remember one of the last times before Uplift, I was working for Standard Chartered Bank, and a colleague of mine, we came up with this plan, this idea to create a financial technology like software, and we designed it out. We literally got and we did everything in-house. It's so crazy that we were able to do this because we did it in-house. We pitched it to the managers internally and said, this is what we're trying to build. And they signed off on it. They gave us access to the technology team. So we had somebody else that was coding with us. I was project managing the whole thing. And we got it to a point where it was going to go.
But it never went live.
It never went live because there's a couple reasons. The dude I was working with, who's a brilliant dude, like coder, brilliant, super smart. He had a lot of personal issues. And that got in the way. He just wasn't, had a lot of personal issues, and those issues started to bleed into the business aspect. So he wasn't disciplined. And then at the time I didn't have enough wherewithal to really, or experience to know how to manage that. So we would have meetings, he just wouldn't show up or come late and kind of looking a mess. And long story short, new management changed. The new person came in and she shut all that stuff down. She's like, yo, I don't care about any of that. I'm trying to focus on what I got to do with my goals, and y'all are using company time to do work on a project that I don't believe it.
You're right.
Killed it. And then once again, I just, and then between that and then him, I was like, nah, I'm done with this. And that also just burnt me out from the whole banking, process, financial. I'm like, yo, I'm out of here. I'm done. So that was like another caveat. So that's why also I appreciate Chumbo so much, because he's very disciplined, doesn't drink. I don't think I've even heard him curse before.
No, very organized too.
Right, very organized. Punctual, so going from working with somebody who was very, very undisciplined and all over the place and just unreliable to now having getting a partner that's... So
you needed stability.
Right.
Some kind of structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes when you have, and this is my learning experience, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody has to come in and not necessarily filter out what you're lacking, but really that person that's going to come in and be the beneficial person that's going to recognize your weaknesses and say, hey, listen, I can take this over. You need that yin and yang, because you can't, if both of y'all doing the same thing, what's the point of partner up? You both bringing the same tools. Correct.
It's like, even like sports, like you don't need two Steph Currys on the team. No. You need people that will complement his capabilities or able. I'm not calling myself Curry. I don't want to make it take a shoot. Like, yo, he called me Draymond? Like, what you mean? What you mean, bro? People get sensitive. Like, oh yeah,
you're personal.
Yeah. He the Klay Thompson to my Steph. You know what I'm saying?
That's facts right there. People do take it seriously. No, it's not. It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor, right? So you have to, and whatever I bring things that he may not feel that he's strong in, and things like that.
But the thing is that you guys complement. You guys complement each other very well because he will recognize your personal skills,
right?
Like your interpersonal skills, how to communicate,
right?
How to deliver a message and things like that. And he recognized that is your strength. And he's like the number two. Not saying he's the number two in the sense that you guys are not 50-50, because he brings his assets to the table as well too.
Absolutely.
But he recognized in that scene, he's number two when it comes to that. And you're probably number two in that scene, in that world of his.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because he's an attorney, brilliant dude in terms, like he very, like you said, very organized, very structured, obviously knows the law, knows legalities, knows about like there's certain, and I'll tell him all the time, I'm like, yo, I don't do math in public, so I like, you can figure out the numbers. I'll look over it afterwards, but like, let's, on the quick conversation, like, yo, what's that? What does that mean? Divided by what? All right, cool. Let's run with it. So yeah, there's certain things that, like you say, like, yeah, we certain things where each of us are stronger in, and then we learn from each other, right? Like I don't just sit there and just like, you got it. I'm like, all right, well, how'd you do that? Like, what's your process? So I can like pick up information and just get better at life, because that's what it is. You just got to be able to pick up information from the people that you're around.
So that was the difference between the first partnership didn't work versus the second partnership, because you had a better synergy.
Absolutely.
All right. So now let's fast forward. How are you able to still teach or still be in the educational field while starting a company? Because some people find that to be challenging. Like, it's taking time away. You have a partner that can help you out in certain things, but how's that challenge been? Because there's a lot of people out there that's still working.
Right.
Right. Still have a profession that would like to exit or in the process of exiting. Right. They want to know, they may want to know, some of the challenges or some of the benefits, or what tactics did you use?
I think for me, so that's a great question. So I'm not a, and it just comes from like a, immigrant background or my mom's is, from Africa, mom's and father from Africa. Right. So like, you value stability. You value like having like something, you gotta keep something solid. Right. Like, I used to joke, around, like, if I definitely, after going through school or just even growing up, if I came to my mom and being like, yo, I want to be a rapper, she'd be like, what? You know what I mean? Like, she probably would support it because she's just, eventually, but I think at the, I just grew up in an environment where, yo, you work, you get a job, you support yourself, you make sure that you have always, be able to cover your bills and things like that. So I'm saying all that to say, like, I'm not a big believer just jumping out the window, like, unless you have a plan, right? So I think that's the first and foremost, is how I try to figure out a plan. I'm constantly like figuring out, all right, what's going to work and what's makes sense. Like I try to manage my workload in terms of like what I do full time, so I can have enough flexibility to work on the side business, on the business, and it's a lot of it is just being present when you're at your job. And so so the people that you're working with, management or whoever, your teammates, never feel that you're shortchanging them. So I try to, once again, communicate, hey, is there anything that you need me to do? Cool. If they tell me yes, no, boom. So then I had no expectations. So I'm not just sitting there. Because I think a lot of times you can get into that and just start sweating like, oh, they haven't called me. Maybe, whatever. I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to ask, like, hey, what's going to say? Everything good? You want me to do something? You want me to handle something? Boom. Then honestly, that's how you manage your workload even better, because now you kind of low key saying, hey, you need that done? I'll take care of that. Right? And you take care of that, they're going to remember, Julius handled X, Y, and Z. I don't need to call him for that. Because now you're not caught off guard. where people might just throw you on something, throw you on a project, throw you on this, whatever. Like, yo, I'll grab it, I'll take that. So then I'll manage that, and then you figure out from there. But it's still challenging. It still can be challenging.
Yeah, because you have a team,
right?
So you in this profession, educational profession, you running a business on the side, but you have a team and your business is scaling. Like, how do you manage that?
I think it's communication, and it's really communication and letting and just and planning. I really can't emphasize it even more. It's really planning, like really having like, all right, I constantly, even if I'm not writing it down, I try to write stuff down, but even in my head, I'm walking to the train in the morning, I'm going, all right, who do I need to call? I guess that other day, I'm like, we had to get something done, and I called somebody on the team. Yo, can you like in the morning before I got on the train? Yo, can you handle X, Y, and Z? Boom, 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 boom. And then I'm gonna call. That's just how I manage my life. Then I'm like, all right, I got to call let me call my mom, because I got to make sure that I'm checking up on this. I'm calling this. I'm doing this, and then I'm processing. I'm knocking these things out before I even get into the office.
Right. So in the morning you have like a checklist.
Yeah. But before I get to my, I'll make sure I'm up earlier so I can knock certain things out. And then maybe on my lunch break, I might walk out like, all right, boom, like, all right, if I need to handle something for the business, whatever. And then working, and then once again, Achumba and I were constantly in communication. All right, what needs to be handled, and then like after work, I might take another call, and we plan out for like certain things, and I'm constantly also looking I'm constantly always looking for people that we can add to scale, like add into the business that we can work with to use and make our lives easier. We can scale it out, so we're not. My goal is I don't want to be anyone's manager.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want people that we can delegate to do a job, and then they can figure it out. And then obviously if they need us, so I look for that, and I look to create that, because the less tasks or less high priority tasks that I have to worry about, the easier my life would be, and then I can then look big picture, so I could finally make that step and be like, all right, this is just what we're doing full time. I'm an entrepreneur full time, but it's going to be a gradual thing for me. Right. Unfortunately, I don't got the trust fund to be like, I'm just jumping out the window, just gonna be able to figure out. So I gotta strategize and plan and plot, but still moving forward. I'm also not just making sure that I'm not being like afraid to even make that jump. I want to make that jump, but I gotta make sure that the parachute, the straps are strapped in, everything. I'm gonna jump out the plane. I'm gonna do it, but I'm checking, making sure. Yo, listen, make sure this is still, is it still strapped? All right, is it going to thing? All right, cool. All right, bet. Let me make sure, and then I'm not just going to be like, all right, cool. I'm gonna just jump out. Yeah.
It sounds like to me, and it sounds like you're trying to you want to cultivate environment of leaders, so that way they can manage without you having to be a manager per se.
Absolutely.
Right? So the more you get leaders on board, or you train or develop leaders on board, the less you have to take on, and then the more you could scale the business.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but with the parachute thing is, if you keep holding on to the parachute, at some point, it's either you jump or you don't jump.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And that honestly, that's literally like an existential conflict that I'm dealing with, right? Like literally, that's something that I'm constantly thinking about.
Because when you have a cushion, it's hard to walk away.
It's super hard.
Yeah,
it's comfortable.
It's comfortability. Yeah.
It's comfortable. It's like, all right, I come here. I got an office. You know what I mean? That's one thing. If I was still in the cubicle, I got an office. I'm like, close my door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is, it's a comfort thing, and I absolutely recognize that, and I think that. And sometimes I wonder, is that holding me back from my greatness? Like in terms of being like, am I holding on that I'm not really putting myself in a position where you really got to fight now to make sure that the things are successful. So, nah, man, I'm trust me,
But that's awareness too.
Yeah,
that's the fact that you're aware of you could your potential could be a lot more. Right? You could maximize a lot more if you were dedicated to one thing. Here's the thing that I noticed from my own personal experience. I've witnessed people have like several businesses, right? But never focus on one to scale. And the reality is, if you scale, and this is my personal experience, I notice if once I focus on one thing and it starts to materialize, then it manifests to create other things. But until I put my undivided attention to one thing instead of being scatterbrained, then what happens is it's like I'm growing 50% here, 20% here, instead of growing 100% here and then branching out to start these other entities.
You're right. You're right. And it's something, no, you're right, because I think, and it's easy to, it's because we all do it to a certain degree, like in terms of like, especially now, like, you know, that I call it, you know, that we're in the hustle porn era,
right?
Where everything is, it's not as bad as it probably used to be, but it's still there. Where, you know, you got the and I still listen to these, like, you know, like the Gary V's and all, like I still listen to some of that stuff because, you know, it's motivational. But we can get into that, like, you know, like now you meet folks now, they be like, yeah, you know, I'm renting out my car, I'm renting out Airbnbs, you know, we selling candy. I also do I'm doing real estate, I'm doing taxes, I'm doing everyone's slash, and I fall victim to it too. Like I'm like, yo, I want to make sure I can cover all my base. I want to get in real estate. I'm doing this because it's easy. It's not easy. It's very, we're susceptible to seeing the possibilities and the opportunities in these different arenas, which is very much true. But like you said, I think success really does come into a term of focus. And I think what we're trying to do is like essentially hedge our bets, but that hedging your bet can also stagnate you
from prolong the process.
Prolong the process.
Yeah. I exit out the Airbnb game for two reasons. One, I decided to do long stay rentals versus the Airbnb. For two reasons we did this, Nilly and I. And one was because we saw that down the line, because there was a lot of things that's happening in terms of they trying to, you know, cancel Airbnb in certain places, in certain states. There's a lot of pushback in certain communities and things like that. So we started to see a trend,
right?
And then we recognized that, okay, instead of taking a risk on that from that end, and then, you know, we got the community breathing down your neck and all this because they want change and all, and we totally get it, understandable. But at the same token, is that okay for us? The second reason, I should say, the second reason is the fact that the focus, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to go in and, you know, deal with clients coming in and out.
Yep.
Doing spot checks. Doing cleaning services, like communicating with them. It's a job on its own.
Absolutely.
So once we understood that factor, it's like, okay, too much time is being allocated when we to this, where we can allocate some time to focus on other things. Now, if you got a property manager and they know what they're doing, then that's perfect, right? Because then you give them that duty. But I think the singular, and I read this somewhere too, I don't forget which book, but the singular focus is the key to success, because your attention is all on this one thing and to grow this one thing. So you're constantly focused. But if you're divided, I think it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Because you're growing this at 50%, but then you got that at 20%, and even if you're giving it 50-50 or even 100-100,
right,
that's still taking time away from having maybe 200% in there or 100% in there, however you want to do the math.
No, you're right, and I honestly, I'm in a, like, that's one thing. I'm just in my personal life and business wise, I am in the process of elimination. I think last couple of years, I just was just like, I'm just trying a bunch of different stuff. Right. So I'm throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Now I'm similar to what you were saying. You know, you start to see, like, where's my time and my energy going? Okay, let me see how I can eliminate things. And that's where I'm at now. Like, I'm seeing, all right, what's important. Like, how do I, you know, how to eliminate, how to take that out.
Agreed. So let's talk about education, right? Especially in our community. Why is it you're the perfect person to talk about that, right? I think that when it comes to education, with so many people leading towards, so many of our people, Black people, especially, because we're trying to make some corrections in the inner city. So many people are coming together to teach financial literacy. Why is it that we're not coming together to create our own school system with our own curriculum? So many of us is doing these, oh, I'm teaching financial literacy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And you have backgrounds with the education, you understand curriculums, you understand the college tuitions and all that. So you know exactly what people are looking for in terms of providing the need for that education.
Yeah.
But why is it that we're not coming together to build these schools and provide these curriculums for our people or within the inner city?
That's a heavy question, man. Terms of building schools, and shout out to Dr. Umar. Shout out to Dr. Umar for the, I hope he figures it out. That's a good, I don't want to get into this. That's gonna be a whole other topic. But I think so. Somebody told me, and I didn't understand it. Somebody told me this a couple weeks ago. A friend of mine, she said the Department of Education, the DOE, has a monopoly on education in New York City. And I didn't really understand it. I was like, repeat what you said. And she said, you don't have to enroll your kid into the DOE, but they make it seem as though you do, right? Because it's public schools, it's free to enroll. So they position themselves as we're just going to educate the most kids in New York City because it's free. And because we tend to forget about like the Montessori schools and the parochial schools and the private schools and all that type of stuff. Like those are options, but obviously they're not all free and expensive. But you can open a school. Like it's not, but because of like how it's marketed and how it's positioned, we just think that's like the only game in town. So I think that one, it's just lack of information. Because in working in the education space, I didn't even put that together. Because we just, you think of New York City, you think the DOE. That for one, right? Us understanding how the system works and understanding that there is an alternative to do so, right?
Right.
I think that's number one. I think for that to really happen, I think a combination of things. I think you would need the wisdom of somebody that's been doing it for a very long time. So, Achumba and I, we're a couple years in the game. Like, yes, we have some experience, we have some understanding, but I think you would need somebody who's probably in their 50s, 60s, has probably been an educator in the education space for like 30 years to really do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you need that institutional knowledge, that the unknown unknowns, which I definitely don't have. I'm not at that point. So I think it could happen, but I would definitely want to seek the counsel and probably like put it into the hands of a select few of folks that, shout out to one of our mentors, Jeff and Achumba and I's Ruben Durante, who the classroom class right across the hall is actually named after Durante because he's been in the education space for years, for 20 plus years, has a dope company, Triad Consulting. He's somebody I would definitely want to come to with that idea. And like, yo, Ruben, let's figure that out. How we can do that,
right.
and how can we support you and help you to build and be like your soldiers in that?
Because we all want the same thing,
right?
We all want to educate the next generation or the generation after that to really say, hey, listen, here's a school that's going to teach you the right tools,
absolutely,
to get you ahead.
Absolutely. Yep.
So this is the next question I have, right? And you know what? Before then, I gotta shout out LeBron too, because LeBron is doing amazing. He created a school over there in Ohio, and there are people that's doing it, but I think that for us, for every single person that wants to provide that educational tools, I think that is very important that we come together and say, hey, let's start creating a school system where we're going to have our own curriculum, right, and basically teach the fundamentals are there, right? But also teach them how to execute on those fundamentals. And it's not just teaching them, but also showing them that execution. That's the key part too. It's not just gaining the knowledge. It's absolutely just how do you apply the knowledge and how you make it stick.
Absolutely.
Right. But I think that's important. So Julius, let me ask you a personal question. You know, if there was, because I see that you're on this path. You know, you went to finances, first of all, you learned communication from working at a sales call place. You went through all the a few financial companies, and now you're in the educational system. Like, really, what's next? If you didn't have, to think about the business, you didn't have to think about the money or the status, right?
Right. Yeah.
What would you be doing right now? Or what is next for you?
Man, that's a great question, and it's something that I truly ask myself. I think for me, I think the one thing that I probably would want to tackle, and it's it's not cliche, but it is something that we all want to get into. I think real estate and like actually ownership, but not just in maybe not in even just in the space of yes, maybe commercial property and rent and things like that. But I think also one of my like people that I looked up when I was younger was George Jefferson. Like, I used to watch like Nick at Night and all that type of stuff. I used to watch Jefferson's. The reason I looked at him because he had that dry cleaning businesses, right?
Yeah,
like a franchise.
Once again, showing your age.
Listen, man, it was reruns. I wasn't watching it in real time, man. I was watching. That was not.
It's all right if you got disclaimers. It's
all good, I wasn't watching. I watched George Jefferson. I was watching reruns. But that's funny. So because what I took from that is I think there's a lot of untapped small businesses in our neighborhoods, in our communities that people need, right? That people still need services, right? There's still, like, for example, I'm just throwing stuff like you can't outsource somebody fixing your toilet. You really can't outsource your dry cleaning. You can outsource, meaning to another country.
Right.
You can't. It doesn't make big financial sense to send your laundry to the Philippines to get done. You're gonna have to get it done in your neighborhood. Like, proximity is important for those type of tools. Yeah. So for me, I think ownership in communities for direct services is something that I want to really explore and get into. Like, those really, somebody I follow, he has I think his name is Nick Huber. Dude, he has this company, his brand called Sweaty Startups, where he's just attracted to businesses that you have to have some sweat equity into it. You're not looking for like VC money or those type of things. You're not looking for the next Facebook or Amazon. You're looking for opportunities of services that everyone needs, local businesses that's cash flow heavy, that you can scale up. That would be something that I would love to explore and do more in, right? That I think if I could, and I'm still tinkering with different ideas, but if I could figure that out, that'll be money.
Cool. Yeah, I like the concept and the idea behind that. I just my only pushback would be this, and it's just a question: how would you be able to make that effective in the community when people go online to research these type of people, right? And it's easier when they have these 1-800 numbers where you can contact. They have a group of people under one umbrella. How do you isolate yourself and make that local business stand out?
I still think it's proximity based, right? So, like, for example, so I live in Bed-Stuy, right? the other day, I was looking for a notary, so naturally I hit Google, like, notary, and one of the businesses that popped up was this local business. It was right on Fulton Street, owned by I think it was owned by like older black woman. She had maybe in her maybe 50, 60, something like that. And I remember she was like, "Oh, how did you?" I remember when we were in there. She was like, "How did you find out about this?" I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Google." She said, "Oh, it showed up on the Google thing." So I could tell she's probably recently tinkering, like getting her business on the Google search engine. But when I noticed when we're in there, so I'm in there for maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, like every 30 seconds she was getting a new customer. So she was doing notary. It was a print shop, notary. It was I think she did taxes. She did a couple of different things, but it was all very like relatively simplistic business if we talking if we're comparing it to like the overall entrepreneurship landscape or what people trying to do. Because once again, if I need to get something printed out immediately, if it's a time thing, I can't, if I will go online and try to get that service done, it's not going to happen in time.
Right.
Or the time I would need it. Maybe if I were planning ahead, maybe weeks in advance, I could go and find like the dope print shop all the way outside of my neighborhood.
Right.
But if it's something I need I'm in a time crunch, or I need to get something notarized right now, or I need to get something, or I'm trying to get my whatever. I think that proximity and that time factor matters, and I think I would try to figure out how to really leverage that and add on to it and take my expertise, because what I said to and I'm not going to say the print shop in case somebody takes my idea, but what I said was I was like, yo, if I, let's say, just offer that woman like 200 grand right now, is she saying no? Like, yo, you about to be close to retirement, just we got cash for you, buy you out, and then take that business and keep a staff and try to maybe even make it even more efficient. I mean, obviously you do the numbers and figure out what makes sense, but I just think the opportunities are there, even with the internet. Like I said, even back to my analogy with the toilet. Your toilet breaks, and your pipes is busting, whatever. I mean, I don't know if you got time to like YouTube and go on these things and figure it out. Like, yo, listen, your kids might be like, yo, daddy, the water's everywhere. I gotta, hey, calling whoever, yo, come fix this problem for me.
Right.
I need to I have an emergency. I have urgency. There's a reason why, emergency, no one's, the emergency room never stops having customers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So my thing is, and I like that concept, and I think it's a great strategy for a plumber, right? Or a toilet, or whatever it is you need, a plumber, roofer, and things like that. But these are, you got to be a carpenter. These are skillful tools that you acquired, But the thing is, with the notary, what's the difference between notary, print shop, and how do I scale the brand or make it noticeable when the first thing comes to mind is like a Staples or a Kinko, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, I think with them, no, that's a great, and I appreciate this because this is a good exercise for me to think through. I think you're right, because that's what I automatically think of when I was all right, we're gonna go to FedEx and all that. I think what it is too, I think it's also leveraging your community, right? So leveraging your community in the sense of, like, let's say, whatever, maybe let's say I purchased that print shop. I'm not purchasing that in isolation. I'll make sure, I'll probably try to get some other people that want to go in with this. We also going to let it be no market heavy in the sense of not just marketing and maybe paying for like advertising on all that. But we're going to the local council members. We're looking to the state senate. Yo, we got this dope print shop that we just bought out. Whatever we revitalizing, we letting and we letting people know in the community. We going to the churches. We going to just the elderly homes. That if you need this done, we need whatever you have. We going to like make our presence known in the community.
See, I like that. That's a target. Yeah. That's a target audience versus because that target audience may not be comfortable driving to like a Staples or FedEx. that target audience may like, you know what, I'm used to my local people. I don't feel like commuting, so let me go here. You know, so that target audience, the you know the elderly, the church, and things like that. I think that's an awesome idea.
And absolutely, and one thing too, and it the thing is, it's hard to scale culture. Like, I mean, I read that recently. Like, so if you have a culture ingrained in one shop, that may not be able to be recreated when you open up the second business. But that's also why, like I said, I think, you know, let's say, and just continuing to this print shop scenario, I think I would say I'm keeping your staff on, because they got the institutional knowledge. They know the people, the familiar faces, the people that go in there. Like, when they go in there, I know that's whatever Michelle that's been here for the last 5 years. I know her face. So it might just be new management. I have no idea. I have no desire to work in the business. I just want to own it and be able to manage it, and then maybe tweak some things that I think would make it better. But the other thing too is, like, a lot of these, and I think that's also how you hold on to the culture in your neighborhoods, because, you know, let's face it, like, you know, Brooklyn, like anywhere else, maybe more rapidly than anywhere else in New York City's been, you know, super gentrified, and it started with housing, started with the homes. Do we also want it to continue down with the businesses as well?
Good question.
Yeah,
it's good. Let's leave it at that. Just one final thing, and that's going to be it.
Absolutely.
You know, this platform was created so that way entrepreneurs and creators could get started. What is the one thing that your advice, a word of encouragement, anything to get people started?
Start. Literally, start. Trial and error, like that. I know people are scared. People, sometimes you want to be a perfectionist, or you may feel like I got to go like I'm just jump out the window, quit my job, just do everything. But just start doing stuff. Like, start having conversations. If you want to, hey, I want to start a bakery business, bake a cake and see if you can sell it.
Yeah,
you know.
To add to that, because you just tapped into something. What is the one thing that you regret not doing when you started?
With the business?
Everything.
Oh, man. You got enough time for that? No. One thing, regret, I think,
like not starting early?
I think not starting earlier. I think also, I think really just not having, but it's hard to say. I would say it's almost like, you know, not having enough belief in myself. But I think that comes with, a lot of times that comes with experience, because doing little things. But I think it is, but it is just start getting up. You can build up your confidence by just doing little things, right? It's like, go back to sports. I like to use sports analogies. If you on a basketball court and your shot not hitting, maybe just try to make a layup, get a little putback, hit a free throw. All right, cool. Like, you just want to see the ball go in the net.
But it's hard in that moment, though.
Yeah.
In the moment, you're not thinking. It makes perfect sense. Yeah. We all know this strategy. Like, all right, let's do the little things.
Right.
That's because my thing that I share with everybody, small things become big things.
Absolutely.
Right? And in order for you to create something big, you have to start it small and allow it to manifest as something bigger.
Absolutely.
But in the moment, you know, to pull on that, you know, that theory, or to pull on that philosophy, it's kind of hard. What would you suggest?
I think, Paul, like, a lot of times, just I'm a big believer in just having like some quiet time, isolate, whatever that is, whatever your thing is. It could be meditation, it could be cigars, it could be a walk, it could be cigars. I like cigars, man.
Hey,
I like cigar. It could be a cigar, it could be a walk, it could be waking up early, just sitting in your living room. It could be reading, you know, if you're religious, reading, you know, Bible, Quran, whatever it is. I think having those quiet moments and really reflecting. Sometimes you could be doing something and just, you need to quit. Like, it may not even be a moment you just got to keep pursuing. Maybe like, all right, this is not really working. There's nothing wrong with quitting.
No. Well, it's not quitting. It's nothing wrong with exiting something that's probably not for you.
Absolutely.
Right. Or maybe you just don't have that ability yet. You haven't developed yourself enough to execute on this.
Well said.
So it's not really quitting. It's more like, all right, maybe I need to exit for this right now and develop more on other things. And then it doesn't have to be that particular thing. But if you're an entrepreneur, go back in the game.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be real estate again. It could be something else, but jump back in the game. That's not quitting. That's just exiting.
Yeah, well said. That's better said. Yeah, I think. No, I totally agree. I totally agree because it is, especially if you feel that you have something value to add to a marketplace or to a market or to a scenario. Yes, definitely continue to pursue whatever your internal desires are, but it may not. You may need to pivot or change direction, or like you said, maybe step back for a little bit and then come back in. So yeah, definitely. I'm definitely not saying people just give up on life, man. It's just like, listen, I'm about to just whatever. I'm about to just live on the street. Like, nah, definitely not. But just I would say that too. Yeah, definitely, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
My guy, appreciate you, brother. Man.
Appreciate you, man.
Bro, it's been awesome having this conversation with you, and thank you.
Absolutely.
You got to share a lot of your experience and your knowledge behind the financial and educational background. If somebody wants to reach you and get in contact with you, what would be the good source?
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. For me, Caranda Consulting is my Instagram handle. So CARANDA Consulting on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, Julius Caranda. So yeah, that's it. And Julius at carandaconsulting.com if anyone wants to email me.
Yeah.
My brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Once again, you can find us on IG on It Starts Now. The description is below. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to leave a comment or a question. If you'd like us to answer something, please leave it below. Thanks for joining us. This was amazing. I am Stan Lane, and as always, it starts now.